All right, ladies and gentlemen, back again, talking about population dynamics. This is the last section. We're going to talk about things that can cause changes in populations today, but first, we need to talk about your homework from the last time, which was 8.2. Let's go ahead and click over to 8.2. All right, blank are species that have adaptations to reproduce quickly if the population falls below carrying capacity. If they reproduce very, very quickly, those are going to be your opportunists. That would be things like algae, bacteria, mice, bunny rabbits. If a strong wind blew the seeds of a plant from one area to another, the new plant would said to blank in, this is the key word here, in to the new area. If it's moving in to the new area, it is immigrating. Freezing temperatures would be considered a blank factor. These freezing temperatures are density independent. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of organisms or just a couple. Disease is an example of a blank factor. This is why the COVID-19 was so much more of a factor in China, New York, and Philadelphia. COVID-19 is a disease that we're dealing with. It is a density-dependent factor. The more organisms, the more tightly packed they are, the closer and faster diseases will spread. When a population of zebras move from one area of scarce resources, scientists say that they blank from the area. They have emigrated or exited the area. E for exit, so emigrate there. Blank are species like wolves that have adaptations that allow them to remain at or near carrying capacity for long periods of time. That one's competitors. Which of the following is the correct equation for population change? Immigration plus births, meaning things being born plus things moving into the area, are going to increase. Subtract the deaths and subtract the emigration from the area. Hopefully you guys got those all right. Let's go ahead and get started here on our last section. Your work for today, 258 to 263 is the reading, then the review for 8.3. I'm not sure about these dates, but we'll probably have a quiz coming soon. Populations have different reproductive strategies. These opportunists, they live very, very short, but can reproduce very, very quickly. This is the time of year for dandelions, bacteria, algae, mosquitoes. You'll see swarms and swarms of mosquitoes and bees this time of year. Competitors are species with adaptations that allow them to remain at or near carrying capacity for longer periods of time. They live longer and have fewer offspring. They also tend to take care of their offspring longer. Okay, real quick. Opportunist or competitor? Mosquitoes. Well, this is the time of year mosquitoes are going to explode. Opportunist. Elephants. They live a long time. They take care of their babies. Competitor. Those are fish eggs. Well, fish are going to explode this time of year. They're opportunists. Those are elk. Elk take care of their young. They're competitors. That's pond scum or algae. Algae is a opportunist. Those are lions. Lions take care of their cubs. They're competitors. Human populations have unique adaptations that allow us to get our population to continue to grow. Humans have the worst eyesight, the worst sense of smell, and we have some of the least amount of speed of any organism on Earth. But yet, we're the dominant organisms on Earth. Why are we so dominant? It's because we're so smart. Our brain is so big compared to the size of our body that we are so much more intelligent than all the other organisms on Earth that everything that we lack in strength, in speed, in eyesight, in smell, in hearing, we can make up for with our brains. And we have the ability to change the environment to suit our needs, whether it's building houses, growing food, how to set up ways to hunt, and things like that. Human expansion is because of habitat expansion. We know that the first humans evolved around 50 to 100,000 years ago. Nobody's really sure. And they were first discovered based on the tools that they found and cave markings in Africa. Very, very central Africa. Slowly over time, they spread out throughout Africa, moved into the Middle East. From the Middle East, they branched out. Some went up towards Europe, some went into Asia, some branched down around Asia through India and eventually made it into Australia. Some eventually made it into North America as they crossed the land bridge from Siberia into Alaska. During the last ice age, there was plenty of land between there. It was actually, you could walk right across from Siberia to Alaska. And they slowly spread down from the west coast of North America and eventually to even up to 6,000 years ago. They were still Native Americans here now, but they've been here a very, very long time. If you guys watch this video, it'll actually track the human expansion throughout the earth. It's really interesting. We have a very diverse habitat. Many organisms only live in one type of habitat, while humans can kind of adapt our habitat. We have always built shelters, even from the time that those early humans, they built, like, if you read anything about Indian colonies, all the different types of Indians had different types of shelters depending on where they lived. We have been building shelters for thousands and thousands of years. Building different types of shelters allow us to survive different types of environments. We also have all of this different types of technology, from different ways of growing food, different ways of hunting food, different ways of sanitation is a huge one. Up until the early 1900s, human waste usually was pumped into a stream and allowed to run downstream. Well, guess what happened to all of the water in the streams? It became polluted. People were getting sick from the water. Now we have sewer treatment plants. All of the sewage here in Bellwood is pumped down below Tyrone. If you've ever driven out past Tyrone, you can smell it on a summer day. You drive right past it. We treat our water. The Bellwood water is treated with chlorine. Why do we put chlorine in the water? Chlorine kills bacteria that can make you sick. If you've ever had a trip to a foreign country, if you go to Mexico or a lot of those South American countries, first thing they'll tell you is don't drink the water. The water in those South American countries is not treated for the bacteria. So your body is not immune to it, and you will get very, very sick, and you'll get what they call dysentery. Dysentery is severe vomiting and severe diarrhea. We also have the ability to irrigate our crops. We have many different ways of pumping water to farm fields in drier areas so that they can produce food. The more food you can produce, the more humans can live. So we do a lot of irrigation and things like that when it comes to farm crops. This is an example of what a sewer treatment plant would look at if you could look down on it. You have settling ponds where the solid material will settle out. You have aeration ponds that allow the bacteria to kind of do their work and clean out all of the gunk that shouldn't be there. We have different types of water treatments. They would insert a little bit of, they would actually feed, this is being a pump here, and they would pump this water out of like a reservoir, like the Bellwood Reservoir or the Tipton Reservoir, and they add a little bit of chlorine to it to make it safe to drink. These are giant crop irrigation systems. If you're a farmer and you can afford one of these, if the weather becomes dry, you can guarantee that your crops will grow because they pump water down these large pipes and you water your crops, and you can guarantee that even in a dry area or a drier area, you can still grow your crops. Until about 300 years ago, the human population grew very, very slow. But there were some things that really allowed the human population to expand. As we've got farming and agriculture. The steel plow was a huge one. They had sticks and rocks that they would plow with to grow stuff. The steel plow was a major advantage over a lot of it. And then eventually we moved on to tractors that had plows and discs. This is Fleming, the scientist who came up with penicillin. Penicillin allowed us, the human race, to treat bacterial infections that we were never able to fight before. Many, many, many soldiers during World War I, World War II, who would have died from infection from their wounds, were saved because penicillin killed the bacteria that was killing them. This is a graph of how slow the human population was. Very, 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 very slow. Here's about, see this dip right here, that's the bubonic plague. This dip right there, that's usually right around the Civil War. The Civil War was a very, very bloody battles, and we had a huge number of humans die during the Civil War. Around the 1900s,